1 Samuel chapter 27, and we continue through the life of David. And tonight we're going to look at a heavyweight battle with discouragement. And as we look at the life of David, we have, as we've done with all of the people in Hebrews 11, all the men and women, we've looked at not just their faith, we've also looked at their failures. And so we've looked at both sides of the coin to kind of show us, I think sometimes we look at Hebrews chapter 11 and we see Abraham and we see Moses and we think, man, they're just superheroes. There's no way I can have that type of faith. But we can have faith because that's what pleases God. And I do believe that God gives us what we need in order to please Him. And so what we've done is we've shown the failures as well as the faith. And as we've come across David, we have already seen both, and we have just seen how he's been able to get away from Saul on multiple occasions. And you would think that as he's done that, he would kind of be at the height of his spiritual walk, and he would just keep going upward. But as we open up chapter 27, the very first verse is going to show us that he is very, very discouraged. And so I want us to look here tonight, chapter 27, and we're actually going to look at a little bit of chapter 28, a little bit of chapter 29, if not all of it. And so stick with me tonight, and I want us to look at this heavyweight battle with discouragement. Notice in verse number 1, the Bible says, "And David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines, and Saul shall despair of me to seek me any more in any coast of Israel. So shall I escape out of his hand." I want you to notice as we enter into chapter 27, and in just the previous chapter, he's experienced victory, and now he's in despair. I want you to notice, first of all, notice David's dialogue. Do you notice who David is having a conversation with? I think very quickly it should get our attention who David is talking to. Now look at your Bible, look at verse number 1, look at it again. Who is David talking to? Is he talking to God? I don't see God's name mentioned. In fact, if you look in all of chapter 27, I don't see God's name mentioned at all. Is David talking perhaps to his wife? Or even to his best friend, Jonathan? No, I don't see anybody there. It says David says it in his heart. David is talking to himself. And I want us to notice this dialogue because I do think it's true sometimes, whether we think it's silly or crazy, sometimes we do talk to ourselves. You ever talk to yourself? Some would say that I do that or you do that because you're the only intelligent person that'll listen, right? And so sometimes we talk to ourselves. Maybe it's on the way to work and maybe somebody cuts us off and we say, I'm going to speed up and I'm going to, get in front of him, and we may talk to ourselves in that way. Or we may be going through a difficult day at work and we may talk to ourselves and say, I can't wait to get home to see my family. Or we may be talking to ourselves tonight, thinking about, man, I can't wait to get some ice cream after church or something like that. You might just be talking to yourself a lot, and some would say that that's crazy. Sometimes it's not so crazy. Sometimes it's wise to reflect. Sometimes it's good to make an introspection of your heart and kind of see where you are with God and where you are with your life. But in this case, David talking to himself is not very wise. Because as you see in his dialogue, it says, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. We find David in this moment, in this dialogue, talking to himself, and he's in a moment of discouragement. David doesn't seek God. David doesn't seek spiritual advice. He seeks his own heart. I want you to notice here, he has a couple of options. He first can go to God. Why? Because God is with you at all times. God is everywhere. God can be spoken to in the middle of the night. God can be spoken to while we're at work. God is always available. You never talk to God and God says, hold on, I'm too busy. And never do you call God and God says, no, I think you need to figure this out yourself. Never one time do we call God and God's not available. God is ready at any time for us to talk to, but I don't see David talking to God. And this is kind of odd and kind of strange in this point in David's life, right? You would think at this point, as he is maturing in his faith, why would there be a time in David's life that he's talking to himself and listening to the deceit of the heart and not talking to God? But then I even considered that in my own life. At this point in my life, I told you I was saved at 6 years old, and so that puts us at well over 30 years now that I've been walking with the Lord, and yet sometimes in my life, I don't talk to Him, I talk to myself. And I start to get advice from myself, and I start to listen to myself, and I start to talk back and forth, and in my conversation, I start to get discouraged. Why? Because my heart starts to lie to me. Why? Because Jeremiah told us that the heart is deceitful. The heart is wicked. Right? And so why David, are you, after all these years of walking with the Lord, why are you still not talking to God? Not only that, he's not seeking spiritual advice from perhaps a mentor or even his very own wife. Notice David has a great friendship with Jonathan. Now, David does not have any other conversations with Jonathan. There's no other recorded meetings since the last time we looked at it and the time that Jonathan died. So I don't know why exactly David can't get in contact with Jonathan. It's not that he can pick up his phone or send a text or go do the things that we can do, but for some reason he can't even go and meet Jonathan. There's no recorded meeting. So he could have went to Jonathan, but he doesn't. Maybe because it was dangerous because of Jonathan being Saul's son. He doesn't even go to Abigail, who is now his wife. Do you remember it was last week that Abigail was a very wise counsel? She says, listen, if you take out Nabal, you will put a blot on your record. And listen, you're going to be king. You don't want to have a blot on your record. And so now she is his wife, and he doesn't listen to her or go to her for spiritual advice. And I got to thinking, isn't that the way I do sometimes? And instead of going to spiritual mentors or going to those who know God, whether it be my wife or spiritual mentors, instead I go to myself and I say, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get my way out of this. And guess what happens when I talk to myself? I get discouraged. You may find yourself in that place tonight. So often you may be in a place that you're talking to yourself, whether by choice, right? You refuse spiritual counsel. You refuse to talk to God. Maybe you're just so discouraged. You say, I'm going to figure this out. And in that dialogue, you start to say, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to get a good report. I'm not going to be able to pay this bill. I'm not going to be able to get this relationship solved. I'm not going to be able to go on. Why? Because I'm in a pit of despair and my time is almost up. And you start to talk to yourself and you start to get discouraged, and yet God is there waiting. There's spiritual friendships all around you that would love to have a conversation with you, but so often we go and we talk to ourselves, sometimes by choice. Sometimes it's a part of your day where it's not your choice, it's just your part of the day. It might be that you're riding down the road. Nobody else is in the car. Instead of listening to the Bible on your app or to listen to a preaching message or to listen to good godly music, perhaps you listen to non-godly music, and that non-godly music starts to discourage you. Or maybe you listen to a podcast that is perhaps talks about the state of this world, and it just puts you in despair. I wonder why we do that sometimes. We're discouraged, and so we turn on the news. Not a good idea. Sometimes I don't know why I do this. Preaching to myself, I guess. Sometimes right before I go to bed, I say, I wonder what they're talking about on the news. Stephanie's like, why did you turn to the news? I don't know. I'm hoping maybe today there's something good that they're going to talk about. And they don't. And we do the same sometimes. We talk to ourselves. We get around bad advice. And here's David. He finds himself having a dialogue and getting away from God. You see, you may be at a point where you're not around the dinner table and you can converse with your family. You may not be at church where you can converse with your spiritual family. You may choose not to talk to God. You may not be in a place where you can laugh and enjoy life, and it's in those moments that despair hits you in the face. You start talking to yourself. You start to evaluate life's circumstances. You start to evaluate what's going on, and you say, I just don't know if I'm going to make it. Can I tell you tonight, when you find yourselves in that pit of despair and you start talking to yourself in a negative manner and you start saying, I'm not going to make it, would you turn your attention toward God because He's always there? Would you call a spiritual friend, somebody in this church? Would you call somebody? Would you text somebody? Because when you find yourself in a pit of despair, you find yourself having that dangerous dialogue, you start to talk to yourself and you start to get even more discouraged, it can lead you in a direction you're going to wish you didn't take. Hear the words well tonight. Hear as I preach tonight God's holy word, that if you're not careful with your discouragement, if you're not careful with how you discuss things with even your own self, you'll head the wrong direction. Notice David's direction. Notice as the verses continue, it says in verse number 2 that David arose and he passed over with the 600 men that were with him unto Achish, the son of Maoch, king of Gath. What a verse. David goes from a dialogue with himself to the wrong direction. Notice where he's going. Did you catch that? Do you know where Gath's at? It's where the Philistines are. It's in Philistia. It's there where he shouldn't go. It's there where he conquered Goliath. It's there where he has conquered so many other Philistines. It's there where he's already been before. Look back in chapter 21. Do you remember over there in chapter 21, all the way at the very end of it, he gets himself in a bad situation because he took the wrong direction. And there before the same king, Achish, he has to get himself out of a jam by acting crazy. He had to disguise himself. He had to put on a front so that they would think that he's insane and leave him alone. And now, several chapters later, we find him going to the same place. His discouragement, his dialogue is leading him to the wrong direction. We better be careful tonight with our discouragement. We better not revel in it. We better not just kind of sit in it and just say, well, I'm just going to die here. I'm just going to stay in this. No, we better get it under control. Why? Because we can start heading the wrong direction. There's people not here tonight because their discouragement got them out of church. There's people not married tonight because their discouragement broke up their marriage. There's homes shattered and broken apart because people listened to themselves. They had a dialogue with the wrong person, and that broke up their family. You see, it's dangerous tonight because we can head in the wrong direction. He's going back to the Philistines. What is he doing? David, what are you thinking? What are you doing right now? What is your mindset? His mindset is discouragement. He's having a heavyweight battle with discouragement. And right now, he is down for the count. Right now, he is struggling. Right now, he is not turned to God, but he turns to the enemy. Wait a minute, David, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Not only is he heading the wrong direction, notice he takes some people with him. You know, David's got 600 men that has come, and David's kind of matured these men. They came to him distressed, they came to him discouraged, and they came to him, and David's kind of built them up. They're becoming stronger men. They're becoming warriors. David's their leader. And so guess what? When David's discouraged, guess what happens to them? They follow David. Not only that, their families go. Did you notice that? And so there's more than 600 that David has taken on this journey. He's taken their whole families. And then he's taken his own family. Hey, David, this is not a very smart direction that you're heading, but guess what? Your direction is also taking other people that direction. It's a high price tonight to stay in our discouragement. If we're not careful, that discouragement can turn us in the wrong direction. And guess what? When we turn that direction, we will take people with us. You see, people love to follow. People follow encouragement. Did you notice tonight? One or two people praise the Lord, and guess what? Just about everybody else wanted to praise the Lord. Just to say thank you for the new day that you gave me, right? If nobody said anything tonight, most of you probably would have stayed silent, the rest of you. Why? Because most of us are followers. Not everybody's a leader, but guess what? There are times that you do lead in your conversation. That conversation started in his heart, and now all of a sudden, the Bible doesn't record the conversation, but there had to be a conversation with him and his men and his family and their families, and I guarantee you it wasn't a good conversation. It was a conversation of discouragement. And so they're going to another location. Why? To get some help. Better be careful tonight with our discouragement. As this discouragement heads them in the wrong direction, notice in verse number, back in chapter 27, notice the next verses. Notice it says in verse number 3, and David dwelt with Achish at Gath, he and his men, every man with his household, even David with his 2 wives. It says in verse 4, and it was told Saul that David was fled to Gath, and he sought no more again for him. That seems like it's going pretty good, right? Now the person who's been after him is not going to go after him, right? So this must be okay, right? This must be of God, because God's rescued David so many times, and now Saul is just going to lay off. No, this is not exactly God's desire for David. Notice it says in verse number 5, and David said to Achish, if I have now found grace in thine eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there. For why should thy servant dwell in the royal city with thee? Oh my, David, what language are you using right now? Do you catch what's going on? Achish is not a good person to be a servant of. Achish is the king of Gath. These are not God's people. If you're not tracking tonight, if you've not been following David's life, this is not a good king to serve under. But then, guess what he does? He calls him he says, would you give me some country? Would you give me a place to stay? And guess what? Achish gave him Ziklag, verse 6. Wherefore Ziklag pertaineth unto the kings of Judah unto this day. And the time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines was how long? A full year and 4 months. What a dangerous dialogue David was having with himself. Instead of speaking to God, instead of speaking to spiritual advisors, he gets so discouraged that he turns the wrong direction. That direction may look good because Saul's no longer there, but now he is dwelling with really is the enemy. It's an ungodly people. This is not God's people, and David did not get permission from God to go here. In fact, it was several chapters before that God told him to go a different direction. And since then, God did not say go back. But all of a sudden, David is longing for Egypt. He is longing for an old direction. He is longing for old things. And if we're not careful tonight, we will find ourselves in that same situation. We will long for the things of yesterday. We'll start to be deceived by maybe the good old days that we had before we were saved. We think about some of the things that we used to do and say, you know what, maybe that'll help my discouragement. Maybe I ought to go back to my old friends. Maybe I ought to go back to my old stomping grounds. Maybe I ought to go back to the old places that I used to be. And here's David going back to Gath, where he already got himself in a mess once before. And in our lives, we got ourselves in the messes over and over. We continue to go back to it. We say, it's not going to hurt us this time. Maybe David just liked to be appreciated. Maybe David just wanted to settle down all of a sudden. Maybe David just wanted to enjoy maybe just a little bit of the comforts of life, because so far he's not been enjoying it. He's been on the run. He's just been trying to survive. He can't even have a good relationship with his best friend because his best friend's dad is after him. Maybe he's just tired of running. Maybe he's just tired of the discouragement, and so he runs to something that'll encourage him. The problem is it's the wrong encouragement. Do you see, the devil will give you something that'll encourage you, but it's not a good encouragement. The devil loves to wave things in front of us, especially when we're discouraged. He loves to wave shiny things in front of us, things that look good, things that seem good. And when we get there, it feels good, seems right. Hey, some of this stress is gone. Now I've got a little bit of joy. I've got a king on my side. I don't have a king trying to take my life. This is feeling pretty good. Hey, why not settle down here for a while? Why not get a little bit of land? Why not get a little bit of stuff? Why not settle down here just for a few days? And that few days turns into a few weeks and months and for a whole year. Trying to wake us up tonight because all of us are in danger of getting in a place that David did. David is a man after God's own heart, and we find him in this place. So let that be true to us tonight, that if we can find David in this place, we can find ourselves in this place. I know people here tonight that are not here tonight because of their discouragement has got them anywhere else but here. You can name it. They're at the house. They're at work just to get a little extra money. They're partying. They're doing whatever they're doing, but they're not in God's house. And they might even be successful. Got a little bit more money in the bank. Got a few friends that'll listen. Enjoying a few things, but we all know that sin is only fun for a little season. We don't know when that season will end. The season could end today, but David's going to get in this wrong direction. And when he's in this direction, notice verse number 8, now he's got to have some deception. It says, and David and his men went up and invaded the Gershurites and the Gezrites and the Amalekites, for those nations were of old the inhabitants of the land, as thou goest to Shur, even unto the land of Egypt. David smote the land and left neither man nor woman alive, and took away the sheep and the oxen and the asses and the camels and the apparel, and returned and came to Achish. So he goes on a killing spree and a stealing spree. And he comes back to the king, and notice he lies to the king at where he's been. Notice verse number 10. And Achish said, whither have you made a road today? And David said, against the south of Judah, and against the south of the Jerahmeelites, and against the south of the Kenites. So he's trying to say, I was over here, so that the king doesn't know who did all the killing. He's finding himself deceiving in this place. And David saved neither man nor woman alive, to bring tidings to Gath, saying, lest they should tell on us, saying, so did David, and so will be his manner all the while he dwelleth in the country of the Philistines. And Achish believed David, saying, he hath made his people Israel utterly to abhor him, therefore he shall be my servant forever. Before it was David saying, let me be your servant, I'm your servant. Now Achish is saying, you are my servant, and not just for today, but you're my servant forever. Listen, I'm telling us tonight, we better be careful with discouragement, because when we get in our discouragement and it heads us the wrong direction, when we get where we're going, guess who we're going to be a slave to? The devil. And the devil, when you get there, he's going to lie to you, and he's going to make it seem like it's real good. And guess what? He's going to give you all the things that your heart desires. And he's going to flash it up. He's going to shine it up. And it's going to feel real good, sound real good, and all the things real good. But you'll be a slave. You'll be a servant. And let me tell you tonight, the devil is a horrible taskmaster. He will lead you astray, and he will keep you there, and he will keep you even in more discouragement. And David's deception has got him in a wrong place. Notice David's danger, verse number 1 and 2 of chapter 28. It says, "And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel. And Achish said unto David, Know thou assuredly that thou shalt go with me to battle, thou and thy men. And David said to Achish, Surely thou shalt know what that servant can do. And Achish said to David, Therefore will I make thee keeper of mine head forever." Oh man, David's moving up. He's moving up in the ranks. He's getting some celebration. He's getting some reward. He's getting some praise and recognition. Things are going good in David's world, isn't it? The only problem is he's on the wrong side. You see, the devil will make sure that when you're fighting on the wrong side and you're fighting for the wrong kingdom, he'll make sure you move up in the ranks. He'll make sure you have some money in the bank so that you'll stay there a little bit longer. He'll make sure that you have some friends there so that you'll feel accepted. He'll make sure that you have everything your heart's desire. You'll find yourself on the wrong side. David, what are you doing? This is a man after God's own heart. This is the one who killed Goliath. This is the anointed king to come. And now he's fighting against the very kingdom that he's supposed to lead. You see what the danger is tonight of discouragement? You find yourself discouraged tonight, don't stay there. Don't look down and start to introspect and talk to yourself and say, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to get out. And guess what? Because when you start talking that way, guess who's listening? The devil. And he'll start opening up doors in your life. And he'll start taking you a direction you never thought you'd go. And you'll stay there not just for a few days, but you'll find yourself there for months and maybe even a full year, like in David's case. This is not a good chapter of David's life. But it's reality. It's real, it's raw, it's part of David's life. And I'm thankful that God put it in the Scriptures. I'm thankful God didn't just show everything good about Noah and everything good about Moses and everything good about Abraham and everything good about David, but He also showed their sinful ways. Why? Because that's how we are. Listen, that could be us tonight. If we're not careful, our discouragement can lead us in a wrong place. Now, how's David going to get out of this? He's not just settling down. He is now fighting for the enemy. For the enemy, not against the enemy. And so he's on the wrong side. I know some people tonight that are in that place. They're no longer serving God. They got out of their place. Their discouragement took them to a different location. When they went to a different location, maybe it was a different church, a different marriage, a different family. The devil lied to them. And in that deception, they get even more discouraged. Seems like all hope is gone, right? That's not the God of the Bible, though. That's not the God I know, because the God I know has plans for David. And the God I know has anointed David. And so it's easier for you and I to read this tonight and to look at people like Job and to look at David and to look at any of these people in the Bible, because we know how the story is going to end, because we've read it before. But we don't know how our story is going to end. We don't know what the next day is going to hold. We know what's going to happen in David's life. We've heard it since we were a little child. We don't know about our lives. Can I tell you, though, God's still good? God still delivers His people when they get into a pit of despair. Can I tell you tonight that God is in the business of deliverance, and He can take you from what you thought was done and what was over, and guess what? Even what was broken, and He can put it back together again. You see, God does not give up on His children. I've said that 1,000 times in this series. He is a good Father. But we got to submit. There are so many that have resist submitting to God, and it led them to a course of destruction that they never came back from. Why? Because they continue to resist God. If you're here tonight, maybe you're on that path of destruction. Oh, I know you're here on a Wednesday night, but in our heart of hearts, we might be on the way to destruction. Guess what? There is hope for us tonight. You don't have to let this be your story that you're going to have and you're going to go to a path of destruction. God does have wonderful plans for you. God does have a purpose for your life. He does want you to walk with Him. And so what happens in David's life? Notice in chapter 29, and I know what time it is, and we're going to go get us some ice cream in just a moment. David's deliverance. I'm going to give you some homework back to school. So your homework is read chapter 29. But I want you to notice when you read that, basically he's going to go to battle, right? He's on enemy line. He's on the enemy side. He's moved up in ranks. I mean, he's doing good. But then when he gets there, the people realize, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be on this side. You're supposed to be on the other side. Wait, this is that guy that we sang about. You know, the one after Goliath was killed. This is that guy who took down Goliath, and we played his song on the radio. What is he doing on this side? You know what? When we get to the side we shouldn't be on, the world recognizes we're in the wrong place. And sometimes we don't. And we lie to ourselves and say, it's okay, I'm moving up in the ranks, I'm doing well, the bank account is full, I got friends, I got things. Do you realize how wealthy David is right now? He has plenty of livestock, he has plenty of land, he's got it made, but he's on the wrong side. And God in His grace, God in His mercy, delivers David and does not let him go to battle because they recognize who he is. And he doesn't have to go to battle. Why? Because God has a plan for David, and this is not it. And God, in His mercy, steps in just in time. I don't know what could have happened to David. He probably would have died. Why? Because he was where he shouldn't have been. But God, in His mercy, steps in and rescues him and makes it. This is no coincidence that they recognize who David is. It's the goodness of God. And I'm going to close here tonight. And I don't know where you find yourself at. Maybe you are on top of the world. Got a good report. Bills are paid. Everybody's doing good at home. But tomorrow, that could all change. Next week, that could all change. 2 weeks, 2 years, that could all change. And I don't mean to put a damper on the service tonight. I don't mean that at all. I mean to tell you tonight that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens in the next chapter, you were on the mountain over here, but now you're in the pit of despair. Can I tell you God is still good? And you better keep talking to God. You better keep praying. You better get some spiritual advice. You better get where you need to be because guess what? That discouragement could take you in a place you never thought you'd be. And so tonight as we all stand, I know we got school tomorrow. I know we got to go to work tomorrow. But if you're here tonight and you're discouraged, would you come to the altar? And if you're here tonight, you're not discouraged, would you find that person at the altar and pray with them? You don't need to know the things that are going on in their life, but would you pray with them? Listen, you're here tonight, you said, I can do this on my own. You're talking to yourself. You say, I can't wait to get out of here. No. Come talk to God tonight. Take a minute, take 5 minutes, and come and talk to the Lord. Don't wallow in that pit of despair. Why? Because God wants to help you. So tonight, these altars are open. Nobody should pray alone tonight. If you see somebody praying alone, take that step out of your seat, out of your pew, and go pray with somebody. Why? Because we need to be a house of prayer. David stopped praying. And look where he found himself. Oh yes, God delivered him, but man, he stayed there 1 year and 4 months too long. Wonder what God could have did in that 1 year and 4 months. God's merciful. God is gracious. But how much do we miss out on because of our stubbornness? We're not willing to talk to the Lord. We're not willing to help somebody. We're willing to just stay where we are. And we stay discouraged.